artist. I'm a trained opera singer, and I've worked in my field for over a decade. But I got to a place about 3-4 years ago where I started to have a lot of questions. Questions of relevance. What was the role of art in society, and what was my role as an artist? And fundamentally, something that Paul said earlier on the panel, which was, how can we artists be of service, and how can I individually use what I know in my craft to be of service? You see, I didn't necessarily feel that I was of service, particularly to underserved communities, as an opera singer. There was a real disconnect between what I was singing and why I was singing. I was singing because I believe that the arts make the world a better place. And fundamentally, I knew one thing. I believed in the superpower of music, not because the arts are great, but because I think that the role of the arts is to serve actually as just a tool, a gateway, if you will, to something more powerful. And that is where I think the real magic happens. It is when we unleash our imagination that we can be inspired to dream. And it's in dreaming that we have the potential to see the world as a better place. So that is why I think the arts can change the world. I certainly feel that they can make it a better place. So this to me was a moment in my career which was a call to action. I decided to strive to be the change I wanted to see, and I wanted to find ways to use my voice, both literally and figuratively, to advocate for the things that I believe in. And it dawned on me one day, there must be others. If I feel this way, there must be other artists who feel this way, who aren't fully satisfied, who are looking for a deeper connection and better ways to serve. And along came this wonderful opportunity for me to become a member of the steering committee of this new idea, this new project called the CultureSummit Abu Dhabi. And I thought, what if we could here at CultureSummit find a way, start an experiment, if you will, to gather that community of others that felt like me, and share these ideas, and together strive to create creative solutions. I'm very, very grateful to CultureSummit for allowing me to initiate this here. So ladies and gentlemen, I present you with the first ever Artist Incubator here at the CultureSummit. Thank you. The goal of the Artist Incubator is to essentially do 3 things. Create a community which integrates multiple disciplines, and I'm talking about not just opera singers, but rather I as an opera singer, where could I go in the world to meet a gamelan player from Indonesia and a puppet maker from Pakistan, or a visual artist or a technical artist? I wanted to create that. And we have artists from not only all over the world, but from all disciplines, as broadly as you would define an artistic discipline. We wanted to use that community, secondly, to respond to the pressing social impact issues by incubating projects that can create positive social impact, particularly in underserved communities. And thirdly, in doing so, we want to initiate this global community for like-minded artists. We can share performance practices, we can lean on each other's shoulders, and together we're more powerful than we are individually. We want to reimagine an artistic community. We want to find ways to create meaningful collaborations and move policy into action. And so I leave you with one big thought, because following my conversation here, you'll be hearing directly from the other participants of the Artist Incubator. There's one thing I know for sure. We live in a time, ladies and gentlemen, where we have a surplus of undervalued, underpaid, certainly underemployed artists. And at the same time, we have a deficit, a social deficit, if you will, of the intrinsic values that artists bring to the table. I'm talking about empathy, I'm talking about compassion, but I'm also talking about creativity and imagination and discipline. That's an opportunity. How can we find ways to use the surplus to address the deficit. That's what we're here to talk to you about today. In this first ever experimental laboratory style incubator, my team and I, broke these candidates, these wonderful, willing participants. We invited them to CultureSummit and we broke them up into these groups. We created 5 groups and we assigned each group a social impact dilemma, an issue that's facing the world today. And we asked them over the course of 3 hours only here at CultureSummit to collaboratively propose a solution. And it is my goal, and it's my question to you today, can we use that surplus to address the deficit? Can you help us in furthering this incubator? And specifically, can you allow these ideas, these concepts that you will hear today to grow and be nurtured with perhaps the resources that you have, with your support, with your mentorship, and with your kindness? Thank you very much. I would like to now invite one representative from each of the groups to come up, and we'll be hearing individually from them. They represent their group, a little bit about those solutions and those ideas that they've come up with this week. And I think we can give them a round of applause before they even come up. Thank you.
Right now?
Come on up. All right. Hello.
Hello.
So tell me, which is your group? And
we're Group 1, so our topic was arts and education, and how can we improve this, I guess the challenge of connecting artists with new artists in our world today.
Wonderful. And Group 1, everyone else from Group 1, raise your hands. There we go. All right, Peter, take it away.
All right. So the theme of this whole conference, or this whole summit, has really been about connecting people. We're kind of at the crossroads of this global community. And I'm not going to preach to the choir about how much the arts can change our world and how much of an influence it can have on other people, because I think we already know that. The one theme that I've noticed is it's connecting people from all over the world, from different backgrounds, and finding a way that we can just make something happen and do something. So I want to do a quick survey. How many here are starving artists? Raise your hands, please. I'm one. Yeah? Starving artist? Okay. How many here are from an organization that has available funding, that would be able to connect people, artists, starving artists like ourselves, with some sort of project? Raise your hands, please. Okay, so can you just group up, find each other right now? Or, okay, it's kind of hard because, first of all, I don't think you would remember everybody in this room. Secondly, this is just a small group of people. What our proposition is to matchmake different artists with different organizations. Now, let's do it the other way around. How many here are artists that consider themselves successful? They've made it. Can you please raise your hand if you feel like you're a self-sustaining artist? Okay. How about organizations that feel underfunded, that feel like they don't really have the needs to be able to sustain their organization? Can you please raise your hand? All right, so let's connect. All right, so this is our proposition, is that we want to build a basic platform that will connect artists who are looking for work, who are trying to establish themselves. And how do you get connected, besides going to Abu Dhabi to find other people that can help you grow as an artist? Are those people in your local city, in your neighborhood? Are they a state away? Right now, there isn't really a digital platform that we can connect other people with. And so that's really our proposition. It's to find who are the ones that have a need, and that need would be either finding a project or finding somebody to do a project or some sort of collaboration, and finding the other person that is also the other side of that. So that's really the basic of our platform. We want to launch it in a pilot area, just a small local area to test and see how it works. The one thing that's great about this is that it can be molded for the entire global audience. One thing that I loved about these conversations that we had with that small amount of time is that we had such a diverse input of people that we were able to find that, oh, this is more of a Western way that we apply it, or this is the way the system works in the UAE or in Indonesia. And so that was the great thing that we found, that this was a solution that it's a basic framework that could then be taken and applied to all parts of the world. And Arts Connected, that's the name of the platform, so.
Woo! All right.
Thank you.
It's remarkable to me that you could identify a need and opportunity like that in just 3 hours. Incredible work, Group 1. I think the word that we can take away from this concept is really that matchmaking roster, creating those lists and connecting people. Thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. All right, Group 2.
Hi, I'm Didi Delgado.
Welcome.
And hey, I just saw you come in the door. Come on down here, would you please? We're Group 2, we're in arts education, and our star quarterback just missed her flight, so I don't actually have to do this as much as I would like to. So I'm gonna hand it over here. I'm also not Octopizzo, and he's on a flight as well, but he's our right winger, so we got a star team. Welcome back, darling.
Everybody from Group 2, raise your hands.
Can everyone come up here from Group 2? I'll be the speaker, but I would like this award.
You get whatever you want, you always do.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good morning. All right, awesome. So we'd like to start off by saying thank you for having us here. A major component of a lot of the group talk and group think that we were thinking of really comes from a desire to create, the carbon footprint. We'd like to create a rubric of the artist footprint. And it's like a multidimensional approach on how it is that we move about the world. What is co-sharing? What is co-learning? What does education truly mean to an artist? Who are we reaching and how are we reaching each other? So part of the program that we are thinking about is a cultural summit, cultural collaborative change advocacy center, where it's an online platform that is also multidimensional because it has a series of off-site labs with augmented reality, right? And virtual reality. I don't like the abbreviation sometimes. Let's call it what it is, right? And also, and Octopizzo had brought that up as a modus, because what happens if we go into areas where there really isn't any internet connection, or if it comes down to a choice of whether or not I'm paying for food on the table or something that's really important to a whole entire family versus buying data to get on the internet to find out what CultureSummit is doing. So why don't we bring CultureSummit to folks who need it? And how can that approach be intersectional? We often talk about if you're under 35, right, there's all these grants and programs, but what about to the elderly? What about to the community above? What about to children, right? And so this online platform would have a demographic where you could log in, sort of like Facebook for fanatic artists, right? And we would be able to interact with each other. Several tabs would have master classes. Perhaps we could connect with NYU Abu Dhabi and other campuses to have artist educator credits. And we think that just in the short amount of time that we were able to have this awesome discussion, that we like to talk about where's the money, right? This would also be a collaborative effort, not just amongst artists, but amongst upper echelon folks to come to where the art is, so that way it keeps getting put out into the world, so.
May I augment a little bit? So we're actually one person, so this is what we're doing. I'm Charles Lindsay, hi gang. So the other thing is that the there of ours, there was a lot of synergy between the 5 groups, and despite the rumors of fierce competition, we actually all really get along and sort of all want to work as a group. But the there for ours would actually be like a satellite where we actually go out into areas, for example, Kenya with Octopizzo, and reach people that are not, might not be on internet, but we'd actually take art out there, and the idea was to take art from Abu Dhabi, which could be representing the Louvre, for example, or what happens here literally. So there's both a physical there that goes out into the world, and then a web presence.
So,
Hello everyone, just a short implement. My name is Xiao Yusu. I'm really glad to be here. So we have about 8 of our artists in our group, and then I think each of us represent a different culture and different part of the whole world. So we can forge together by connecting each other, and then one after each person, then we can bring like a global networks, hopefully in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Group 2. Thank you. So as you can see, really the aim here was to create these microgroups, if you will. The aim of the Artist Incubator was to create these smaller groups, give them each a question, and ask them to come up with a creative solution, or at least a concept or an idea here at CultureSummit. Each of the groups being very, very diverse and already being able to draw upon each other. Group 3. And certainly we do have people that were on a flight today. Each of the groups had about roughly 8 to 10 people, but we're glad that you can represent the group today. Thanks.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for having us. We had amazing presenters and they missed the bus. So now you're stuck with us. But we had an idea that was a little bit more peer-to-peer. We called it branch and roots. And it was more of a one-on-one thing. Our initial subject was the preservation of culture. And so we had a very interesting discussion on what that meant for us. And, God, I'm sorry. Can you do it?
You good?
Okay. And the idea was that we would connect people that are like masters to scholars. And I was very passionate about, like, for the example of like a Japanese samurai maker that in our discussion actually became a woman. So she was a traditional samurai swords maker, and she would then maybe not have a student to teach how to make swords. And then we would kind of create some sort of like a Tinder for culture, like a tradition Tinder. And we would connect the swords maker with somebody maybe in Iceland or in Canada or in Abu Dhabi that would really like to learn this trade, and thereby continuing the swords maker's craftship would continue to exist. Kind of, right?
That's right. We also thought about the concept that you can subscribe to this Tratinder as a mentor or a mentee. So you can kind of, right, you can be the root or you can be the branch, because we thought that culture and art has to develop from somewhere to get somewhere. No one comes from nowhere, right? You have to kind of know your roots to take them to the next level as an artist. So we thought of this concept of roots and branches to kind of connect this, to make this visible, this thing we had in mind. Tratinder.
You want to add to it?
Besides this, I think it's important to have a physically touch on the traditions and also innovation. So the roots represents more like traditions of each culture in the locally, and also the branches is more like artists who are willing to use this traditional the arts form or culture to expand to different like connect to the media. And so these roots and branches actually is very connected, like our first group say. And we willing to have more mentors and also mentees enjoying this kind of growing of the tree from the very basics of the like seeds and then become a tree, like what you experience outside, the VR experience with the tree. I think this is a very good example. So I think our group is to make a quite clear statement. So roots and branches.
Thank you so much, Group 3. Thank you. So far, Group 1 had this idea of matchmaking, need an opportunity roster. Group 2, we heard about something mobile, a way to actually take technology into underserved communities and offer an artistic experience. Group 3, we're talking about mentorship and preservation. Group 4, come on up. And what was your question, Group 4? What was your issue? Cultural preservation. Thanks, Jacqueline.
Hi, yes, so we talked about cultural preservation also, but because of Sarah, who lives here in Abu Dhabi, we just got onto the topic of preserving culture that is current instead of looking really far into the past for ancient traditions, which is often what we think of when we talk about preserving culture or heritage that's been many, many years in the making. What about in a place like Abu Dhabi in the UAE where there's a lot of culture that is newer and artists that might be overshadowed by the influx of Western art that's coming in at the same moment, which is, in tandem, a precious thing, but also we don't want to lose the view on the current moment of culture in Abu Dhabi. So we came up with this idea of how can we make a space that holds and preserves the now, the culture of now here. And we specifically focused on Abu Dhabi and the UAE, but as with most things like this, it could probably be replicated in any place because all around the world there's consistently new culture being created, as we've discussed throughout this entire event. So
I think our idea was to preserve the culture of community and create a space where the bar is set like extremely low, they can come in, try and fail, and it's more of like a shared studio space. And I definitely want to give Sarah a chance to talk about it. Because she is the Emirati in our group and she's a student of art. I think it was more of like a shared studio space that we wanted to use. Go for it.
Okay. I think we get the gist. So essentially what you're talking about is creating a space, an actual physical space, which is much needed. So thank you very much, Group 4. Thank you. Thank you. Group 5. And as they come down, again, I ask you to consider these solutions, and first and foremost, to consider supporting this idea of the incubator, because it's through the incubator that we can actually continue to experiment, continue to incubate, and continue to support all of these ideas and many more to come.
Thank you. I just have to remember what we're presenting. Okay, our group 5, was tasked with thinking of an idea that joined art and health and wellness. And we together came up with the idea that the most important thing for mental health, for example, and even physical health, is the kind of meeting together of people socially to make music, to paint, to participate together in the community. So one idea that we had was to create an app that would enable people in the diaspora to find out where there was a group locally in their community that they could meet with, to sing with perhaps, to sing, let's say, to sing common folk repertoire or just common songs among them, or to paint together. But the fundamental idea and the most important idea was for people to actually meet, because in meeting and creating together, it's a known fact that it actually reduces anxiety and stress, alleviates loneliness. And the idea was to keep social cohesion by actually having people meet and play together, which doesn't happen certainly in some communities that often. And I'd like to, I don't know if that was a very good pitch, but it's a simple idea, and maybe I should pass the mic to Patrick, who can add something.
I was raised in Washington, D.C., and I was part of a community of musicians that utilizes this Japanese style of teaching called Suzuki method. And it's very community-oriented. There's a lot of mentorship programs that go on, and being raised in this kind of community gave me the tools to use music, both for myself and for the people I was playing with, as a sort of like therapeutic outlet. And it's been immensely valuable to my life and continues to be, despite the fact that I'm now an adult and not in this program anymore. And this is the kind of thing that would allow these communities to both begin and flourish. We'd be able to find each other and start to build communities where maybe there are not, where people can use the arts and coming together as sort of a platform to create group therapy sessions, to sort of figure out ways to express themselves and be bolstered by a community of people who are also expressing themselves. So this platform is sort of enhance and allow people to find each other where they might not be able to otherwise.
Thank you so
Can
much.
I just, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one thing. A friend of mine this morning, I asked a friend of mine in Zimbabwe to just give me some factual information about the psychological impact of playing music together or creating art together. And in this document that she sent me, it said that vibrationally, if singers sing together and can hear each other, it's got a different impact and on the brain and on the psychological well-being of that person than if they're being sung to as part of an audience. So if the dynamics are very loud and I'm performing and singing at you, it might feel therapeutic, but it's more therapeutic to be listening and tuning each other's voices in together. So that's like a really, I thought that was very interesting and relevant to what we're proposing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Group 5. Thank you. So in conclusion, I want to go back to that idea, because when I talk about the surplus of undervalued, underutilized artists that we have in the world today, and the social deficit of those intrinsic values I addressed, what I see in that opportunity is actually what I like to call the army of compassion. That group of artists, all of the artists you just heard from, and many, many more, they are an army. They are a workforce waiting in the wings, waiting at our fingertips to be activated, to provide solutions like the ones that you heard now. And not only that, to take their craft, to take their knowledge, and most importantly, to take their passion and put it to use. And I believe that here at the Culture Summit, in this experimental laboratory that we had the chance to be a part of, we started to create just that. I ask you to consider this. I ask you to consider each of those 6 pitches that you heard, the idea of matchmaking, the idea of a space, the idea of going mobile into communities, the idea of creating meetups for singing and music making. These are great ideas. What more could we do if we had a chance to incubate further? Without further ado, I would like to take a moment, a brief moment, to thank the amazing people that have made this possible for my team. I'd like to ask Joshua Pangilinan to please stand up. Manuel Bagoro, wherever you are, could you please just come down for one moment? Thank you both so much. They've been remarkable. Please, let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you. Well deserved. Thank you so much. Please stay up here. They're extraordinary, and I just couldn't do any of this. We wouldn't be here listening to this amazing music and having this incubator if it weren't for them. And also, I'd like to take a moment to tell you, for those of you who don't know, we actually, for the first time, have a partnership with Stanford University. And through this partnership, we have 2 Culture Summit fellows that are here with us today. Anya and Tao, would you please come on stage? There they are. These 2 remarkable PhD candidates have been with us, helping facilitate the Artist Incubator groups, taking notes, and just really incredible value to Culture Summit. Thank you so, so much. So big round of applause to everybody here. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And so without further ado, as you think about this idea of the army of compassion, I'd like you to please enjoy one more performance by the amazing Magda Janikou. She is a Greek composer, film scorer, singer, pianist, and accordionist, trained in film scoring, arranging, and music production at Berkeley. She's collaborated with everyone from the Kronos Quartet to Louis C.K. to Snarky Puppy. In almost every facet of the music industry, she may be best known through her world music ensemble collective, Banda Magda, which I'm a huge fan of, a group that plays a blend of French song and Latin American rhythms, as well as jazz and improvisation. Banda Magda has obtained an enthusiastic audience across the globe with performances in the US, France, Luxembourg, Greece, Colombia, and Canada. They're really remarkable. Their leader is here with us, and joining her will be Clemens Sainitzer, who you heard earlier this week. In the spirit of collaborations, unexpected collaborations, they met for the first time here at CultureSummit and will present a collaborative performance here for us today. Join me in welcoming Magda and Clemens. Thank you.
The moon walks to my lover's door. The moon circles to my lover's garden. I will become basilico on your windowsill so I can kiss your brow. So I can kiss your brow.
Vasilevi, chimera sonete, chimera sonete. Yonus maptina agapi, decima sonete, decima sonete. Evgana sedo. Evganasedo, na parigorido. Βασιλικό θα γίνω στο παραθύρι σου, στο παραθύρι σου. Για να γλυκοφιλήσω το μαύρο φρύδι σου, το μαύρο φρύδι σου. Το φεγγάρι κάνει βόλτα στις αγάπης μου την πόρτα. Το φεγγάρι κάνει κύκλο στις αγάπης μου τον κήπο. Βασιλικός θα γίνω στο παραθύρι σου, στο παραθύρι σου. Για να γλυκοφιλήσω το μαύρο φρύδι σου, το μαύρο φρύδι σου. Ποιος σε φίλησε, ποιος σε φίλησε, ποιος σε φίλησε και σε κοκκίνησε. Ποιος σε φίλησε, ποιος σε φίλησε, ποιος σε φίλησε και σε κοκκίνησε.
Thank you very much. My new buddy, Clemens, and I are going to sing a couple of Greek songs, a little different than how they originally are. Open your window, Open it wide so I can see you, so I can light up your seabed with stars and light. Open your window wide so I can see you.
Σοκάκι σκοτεινό, η πόρτα σου κλεισμένη. Το σπίτι σου παράξενο κι αυλή σου μυστική. Είναι το σοκάκι σκοτεινό, η πόρτα σου κλεισμένη. Το σπίτι σου παράξενο κι αυλή σου μυστική. Είναι το παράθυρο κλειστό, τα φύλλα σφραγισμένα. Με κοίσω αγκάθωτο ντυμένη σκεπή. Είναι το παράθυρο κλειστό, τα φύλλα σφραγισμένα. Με κοίσω αγκάθωτο ντυμένη σκεπή. Ανοίξε το παράθυρο σου, ανοίξε το, ανοίξε να πω. Να φωτίσω μάστρα το βυθό σου, άσε με να πω. Ανοίξε το παράθυρο σου διάπλατα για να σε δω, άσε με να πω. Θα πάρω ένα κερί κι αστέρια θα τους τάξω. Το δικό μου το κερί ποτέ δεν θα βραχεί. Και μέσα μες στη θάλασσα θα μπω και θα τα ανάψω. Το μαύρο του βυθού σου θα λάμψει θάλασσι. Ανοίξε το παράθυρο σου, ανοίξε το, ανοίξε να πω. Να φωτίσω μέσα το βυθό σου, άσε με να πω. Ανοίξε το παράθυρο σου διάπλατα για να σε δω, άσε με να πω. Απ' το παράθυρο σου, ανοίξε το, ανοίξε να πω. Να φωτίσω μέσα το βυθό σου, άσε με να πω. Ανοίξε το παράθυρο σου διάπλατα για να σε δω, άσε με να πω. Θα πάρω ένα κερί κι αστέρια θα τους τάξω. Το δικό μου το κερί ποτέ δεν θα βραχεί. Και μέσα μες στη θάλασσα θα μπω και θα τα ανάψω. Το μαύρο του βυθού σου θα λάμψει θάλασσι. Ανοίξε το παράθυρο σου, ανοίξε το, ανοίξε να πω. Να φωτίσω μάστρα το βυθό σου, άσε με να πω. Ανοίξε το παράθυρο σου διάπλατα για να σε δω, άσε με να πω. Απ' το παράθυρο σου ανοίξε το, ανοίξε να πω. Να φωτίσω φορτίσω μέσα το βυθό σου. Άσε με να πω, ανοίξε το παράθυρο σου διαπλάτα για να σε δω. Άσε με να πω απ' το παράθυρο σου. Ανοίξε το, ανοίξε να πω, να φωτίσω μέσα το βυθό σου. Άσε με να πω, ανοίξε το παράθυρο σου διαπλάτα για να σε δω. Άσε με να πω, άσε με να πω, άσε με να πω, άσε με να πω.
One, two, three. Thank you all so much, Clemens. Have an amazing day.
Thank you both so much. Thank you to all of the artists who have been with us. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much.